Hello. Welcome to Dan Explains It All. Today we're here to talk about screen violence. Screen violence is a collaboration with the band CHVRCHES.
Hello? Is it going through?
I don't know.
It's all red and green.
Martin, do you see anything?
I see something. I guess it started already. Hi, I'm Martin from CHVRCHES.
I'm Iain from CHVRCHES.
Screen violence is a pedal designed to capture some of the sounds the band was working with when they made an album of the same name.
Well, the modulation in this pedal, I guess it starts with a simple chorus and then expands.
Almost kind of like room-like stereo slap.
By the time it gets to the maximum, is complete chaos.
All the way to like an infinite reverb tail.
But it's controlled chaos. It's chaos that you can use
just
all
on
one
dial.
knob.
That was the kind of concept behind Screen.
It's a distortion, spacious modulation, reverb, all blended together.
And the whole thing's in stereo,
if you wish.
Monomodulation.
So let's hear some sounds. We're going to start in mono mode. To use mono mode, simply plug into in 1 with a TS cable and out 1 with a TS cable, and we'll talk about the other ins and outs later. Let's engage the screen side. With the screen knob all the way down and the mix in the middle, we have a nice slow chorus. Let's hear what happens when we move that screen knob. At low settings, sounds like a chorus. Then a doubler.
And then eventually a slapback delay.
Then a multi-tap reverb.
And finally, a not quite infinite decay, long trail thing. Basically, as we're moving the screen knob, we're changing delay time, diffusion, feedback, reverb tails, and all of it is constantly modulating. That's the magic knob. That's the primary control over this section. The other control is mix. I'll dial screen back first. With mix all the way down, you only hear the dry signal. As I blend it in, you reach a 50-50 mix of dry and wet. That's what creates the chorus sound. As I turn it up, I get eventually to purely wet signal. Now we hear a slow, true pitch vibrato. As we then push the screen knob again, we eliminate our attack, we wash everything out even more. That's how you can use these two knobs together to create a myriad of sounds.
Mono to stereo.
If you're not already wearing headphones, you'll want to put them on now, because screen violence is a stereo pedal. We're going to plug an additional cable into out 2. Now screen violence is routing mono to stereo. With the pedal off, you'll simply hear the same signal in both your left and right sides. With the pedal on, you'll get a wide stereo spread. The mix knob can affect the sensation of that spread. If I turn it all the way down, it's the same as it was when it was off. As I turn it up, you get a sense of widening out until eventually there's no signal in the center anymore and just this sense of hard pan left and right. That's because now there's the original vibrato on out 1 and a complementary vibrato on out 2, creating a wide chorusing effect. Now we can stretch the screen knob create a plethora of different impressions of stereo space. Now that we've become acquainted with screen, let's meet
Violence.
Violence is a distortion inspired by certain pieces of outboard gear that were themselves inspired by guitar amps. So it's sort of a copy of a copy.
Copy?
Copy of a copy
of a copy
of a copy
of a copy
of a copy
of a copy.
Or maybe just
of
a
a copy.
smattering of transistors made to distort. There are 4 controls:
Violence,
voice, volume, and
gain.
The first control in your signal path is violence. This is your input gain control. All the way down, you basically don't get anything. As you turn it up, you introduce more guitar signal, and you further drive the cascading gain stages. Notice that it gets pretty loud. So let's talk about the volume control. This is the output volume at the end of the chain, so you can use that to tame increases in gain. You'll also notice there's a gain toggle. This controls the amount of gain in the very first transistor gain stage. So it's lower gain when it's down, higher gain when it's up. The voice control is a tone control. Basically, as you dial it back, it gets darker. As you start to dial it up from there, you'll notice the highs come creeping back in. It starts to get brighter. As you continue pushing it actually drives the mids and highs further into the later gain stages in such a way that they distort, and it becomes a almost mid-forward overdrive. Just the way that all these controls interact, so you'll find that there's a lot of movement within all these stages. Also, one note about the volume control, it gets very loud. Which can be great if you want a clean boost. So that's violence.
Stacked violence.
Since screen violence is a stereo pedal, each of the controls over the violence section is actually controlling 2 separate distortion sections, one for each channel. But since we're routing a mono input, what if we wanted to stack one into the other? Well, simply hold down both foot switches. The violence LED will blink red, indicating that stacked mode is engaged. So now when I turn it on, I have channel 1 violence going into channel 2 violence. It's pretty tame right now, but as we start to crank it, massive distortion. It is noisy and out of control and squealy, but
stacking distortion modules creates like an extra unique sound, something that sounds so broken, so wrong, so violent, for lack of a better word. But what I tend to use them for is to, like a good stack distortion, you can get all sorts of kind of crazy feedback that I like to record into the computer, and then I'll grab little sections of it and loop it or manipulate it or take it to a whole other place. So when we were messing around and testing the first version of the pedal, we thought it would be a good idea, if we have 2 distortion modules and we're using the pedal in mono, the option to stack them would be super fucking cool.
Yeah, because sometimes one distortion isn't enough.
so now let's stereoize some distortion. Here intense distortion is spread out into that stereo field. You get the impression of modulation and reverb and just something sort of implaceable. And I think that's where the magic of screen violence really starts to settle in.
Order switching.
So what if we wanted to hear the effects the other way around, with the screen side running into the violence side? Let's find out. The first toggle is used to point toward what effect you want first in the chain. So I just flipped it towards screen, and now we've got screen first going into violence. You'll notice that when I did that, the violence LED changed to yellow. This is because now that we have a stereoized signal running into distortion, we can't stack our gain anymore. So even though stacked mode is enabled, it's not actually available in this particular mode. But let's go ahead and disable it so we can A/B those sounds. All you have to do is hold the foot switches again, wait 5 or 6 seconds, the violence LED will blink yellow, and that will tell you stacked mode is disengaged. So now let's just flip that first toggle back and forth a little bit. Hear how when I point first towards screen, it compresses and saturates, and your dry signal and your wet signal are sort of both getting distorted together and melded in an interesting way. Whereas if I put violence first, it's taking that distorted signal and giving you a clean, modulated reverb expression of it. Each has its own place, which is why we wanted you to have this chunky toggle.
This is a very large toggle switch.
I mean, every pedal needs a giant toggle, you know?
The other mode.
So now let's talk about the other little toggle, the mode toggle. So far we've been staying in the up position, or what we call mode 1. If I flip the toggle down with screen all the way down, you'd have a hard time telling the difference. But as I turn screen up with the toggle down, you hear that the way the reverb is introduced is very different. Basically, it's taking 3 separate reverbs, one short, one medium, and one long, and blending between those 3. So as you turn the screen knob up, you further blend in the long reverbs and blend out the short ones. It's a cleaner reverb sound, but it continues to have that modulation constantly active, always at the end of the reverb chain. And when you max it out, you still get a long trail, nearly infinite, decaying reverb type of thing. Also, while the top mode splits mono to stereo, the bottom mode can do that, but can also retain a stereo spread.
Ping.
Pong.
You've still got those headphones on, right? Let's plug in a Meris Polymoon to get a distinct stereo delay sound. So now that we've created a stereo delay, all we have to do is plug into in2 on screen violence, and now it can be routed in true stereo. When I turn screen on, it maintains that stereo separation, that sense of movement to the left and right from the delay pedal. If I max out the mix control, it retains it in this bottom mode. If I turn the mode toggle up, you'll hear how it sums to mono, but then re-stereoizes just in the way it does. And this is just kind of a quirk of mode 1. To get the other magic, you sort of have to sum to a mono signal. But notice that as we turn the mix control back, because it's an analog dry through, you can bring some of that separation back in on the dry side. Or if you really need true stereo, just hang out in mode 2 the entire time. Finally, let's talk about
Expression.
There is an expression jack on the side here that can be used with any expression setup with a TRS cable. With
so you mean like one of these?
tip
Dan,
connected to
I think
Wiper.
Martin's got one.
Simply plug it in to bypass the screen knob. This allows for external control of the magic. It's just good fun. So that's it.
So that's it.
Oh, well, I guess that's it.
That's Screen Violence, the sound modifier made by Old Blood Noise Endeavors in collaboration with CHVRCHES, the stereo endeavor, the 5-knob wonder, the effects pedal. It uses 9-volt center negative power, draws about 100 milliamps of current, standard soft touch relay bypass switching, and it's available now from oldbloodnoise.com and maybe at a CHVRCHES show near you.